Hello, I'm Peggy Northrup, Chief Content Officer of Radivision and host of SHEconomics. Welcome to Season 2 of our series celebrating women founders and CEOs and the superpowers they bring to entrepreneurship, including creativity, a spirit of collaboration, and persistence. Hello, everyone. I'm delighted to welcome Allison Byers to our SHEconomics series today. Allison is the founder of Scroobious, a video pitch platform designed to help underrepresented founders get the capital they need to grow and innovate. Allison is an experienced startup leader herself, having led a medical device startup through its funding and acquisition, which is how she knows firsthand the prevalence of gender bias in fundraising. This is not something she's just complaining about. She co-authored California Senate Bill 54 passed last year, which requires venture funds to report diversity metrics, a huge impact given California's leading role in venture capital. Allison is also an angel investor, Boston co-chair of the national nonprofit AllRaise, executive in residence at Merck Digital Sciences Studio, DEI task force member at the Angel Capital Association, and a sought-after mentor and speaker. We are thrilled to have her, and we have so much to talk about.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here and have this conversation with you today. And thanks for the great intro.
Great. Did I leave anything out? You can certainly add if I left anything out.
It was very comprehensive.
Okay.
No, I'm excited to dig into all of it. I know we will. And with my company, Scroobious, you were spot on. And we're really aiming to quickly drive innovation by removing the barriers to partnership that exist for diverse founders, investors, and service providers.
That is exactly what I want to begin with. It's just talking about the mission and the history. What was it in your background that led you to found this company? And tell us a little bit about it first so we understand what is on offer.
Sure. So tell you a little bit about Scroobious first,
Yes.
and then I'll dig into my background.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So Scroobious is a technology platform, and we are essentially building the infrastructure to allow founders, investors, and providers to find each other quickly and meaningfully. You know, one of the big issues that exists today for all of these parties is that early stage companies and ventures are rapidly increasing, like at a pace that we haven't seen before. And there is no good platform to find each other in a way that accommodates both the business and the people that are running the business. Because in all efforts, this is a relationship driven industry. And so what we're building is a way that incorporates both the person and the business and allows people to find each other faster and start the right conversations at the right time so we can redirect capital to the places that people are looking to put it and to the founders who need that capital to bring their innovations into the world.
Great. And what was it about? I mean, obviously I touched on it in the intro, that you were raising money yourself. And you ran into the barriers that every woman I know who's trying to raise money for her company has run into, which is, oh, gee, you don't remind me of the guy in the hoodie who I gave money to before. So talk a little bit about that. What did you encounter in your background that made you so devoted to this?
Yeah. So I'll go a little bit back. I'm not going to go through my whole career. It's been very nonlinear, but I've had two major roadblocks that were gender-based in my career, right? And when someone identifies as underrepresented, it's based on their own lived experience. My lived experience is the female one, and everyone has their own, but I can speak to what I went through. So my first major roadblock was when I came back from maternity leave to my really good tech operator consulting job that I built up my career for. I was forced out of the company. And this was a while ago now. I talk about it openly. I didn't for a long time. And it's very common, as I've learned with all the women reaching out to me, to experience something similar where you're not fired, but you're forced to make a decision about whether you can effectively raise your newborn child or fulfill the requirements of the role. And I had a career break. It was a very traumatic experience for me, really called my self-identity into question. And when I re-entered the workforce, it was through entrepreneurship. So that started my passion for entrepreneurship, as it allowed me to have my career and to contribute to society in the way that I wanted to and that I felt fulfilled by. So that started my path toward entrepreneurship. That was with my last company, which you referenced, that was a medical device startup. We spun out of MIT in a hospital system here in Boston, where I am. And I didn't know any of the things I know now about capital allocation and fundraising. And we did raise almost $10 million for that company. But then I was challenged to raise our Series B, and we went to early acquisition. That, again, was a very traumatic experience for me. I thought that I had failed, right, on a number of levels. I really internalized it. And then when I looked into it and I realized the data that says only 1.8% of venture capital dollars are going to women-led teams, and it has never risen above 2% in the history of venture capital, I realized, oh, I didn't fail. The system failed me. I was trying to operate in a system that was designed to keep me marginalized, and I just didn't know it. And the statistics only get worse as you look at intersectional groups and different ethnicities. So that's why I do all the things I do now. Is I just became obsessed and dedicated to working toward equitable access to capital, and it was through those lived experiences.
Great. It's like, you're talking the SHEconomics talk. This is what we talk about with everyone. In fact, I interviewed Fran Meyer, who is the CEO of BabyQuip recently, and she said something that has stuck with me. She said, it cannot be possible that women only have 2 or 3% of the good ideas. It just can't be true.
It's not. Yeah.
It's wrong.
Well, it's not. And, the other part of that, which I know we'll get into, but I talk about this a lot, is this isn't just a women's problem. This is an everybody problem. Our innovations are needed for huge things that affect everybody. It affects how we operate in our capital systems and your access to financial products. If they are only designed by men, they are not as effective as they can be, and they are not capturing especially the wealth transfer that's happening now to women. Healthcare access is impacted by this. The climate is impacted by this. All of these innovations, it's not only a women's problem, this is an everybody problem.
Exactly. And when you think about women's health in particular, and the innovations in women's health that are necessary and needed, and it seems as though only women are investing in that. I mean, great that they are, but everybody needs to be investing in these things.
Yeah.
And I do want to talk about what we as investors need to understand, because it's not just helping founders. It's also, it seems to me, you're helping investors find the founders that they need to invest in, right? So
Yep.
What do we as investors need to understand about this marketplace?
Absolutely. Well, and in particular, I really focus on angel investors with my work at Scroobious. I focus on other types of capital with different advocacy or nonprofit work. But angel investors represent an enormous potential, billions of unallocated capital. A statistic that stuck with me is that 65% of angel group members are latent, which means they joined a group, they're paying the dues, they want to participate in the investing economy, but they're not doing it through the group, which tells me they're not finding the founders and the businesses that they want to put their money in. So we need infrastructure to help with that and to collaborate with the groups to bring what these angels are looking for. But the most important thing is, private investing has not been available to underrepresented investors for a very long time. And even now, it's still not available to many because of the accredited investor definition that's based on your net worth. But it is for so many, and it is a way to both vote with your dollars for what you want to see in the world. You get to decide that. You have an active role, and you get to profit. This is how you build generational wealth, is by investing in risky asset classes that have the ability to pay off really big as well. And we can get into diversified portfolio and all the ways that you hedge against a risky class, but this is how you participate in the way that men have done for generations and generations. And it is incredibly exciting, fulfilling, and financially rewarding to be part of this. And the other thing I'll just add while we're on this topic is so many people I talk to don't realize that you can just start investing. If you meet the accredited investor definition, just go to the SEC's website. It's clearly laid out. You can just start investing. You don't have to go get certified. There's no like special process. You know, so many women tell me like, oh, I can't wait till I figure out how I can start doing this. Just start doing it. It's much simpler than people think.
Right. And I do think that women in particular, we have been trained, you get a certain amount of money, you take care of your family, you get a certain amount of money, you give money away, not necessarily recognizing that you can give away a lot more money if you can participate in this and get some really big returns on it, right? So again, Fran Meyer said, we need more women billionaires. It's like, yes, we do.
Yes, and the way we get them is by investing in the women who are building $1 million company ideas or $1 billion or whatever you want to say, who make the millionaires, and the investors who profit off of that. So we can be our own creation engine in that wealth. We don't need to wait for someone else to do it. And it's not someone else being a millionaire. You can participate in that as well.
Exactly. You are speaking our language. Well, I want to ask you about building your own company. And are there any, lessons or surprises along the way that, especially anything that you wish you had known at the beginning of this journey? Right?
There is a lot that I wish I had known at the beginning, but yeah, I mean, again, every experience is its own. So one person's journey is not representative of another person's journey, but there are themes and there's certainly advice that I wish I had known, when I was starting out. One of which is to get as much information and data as you can about what you're going into. Not just the industry or business that you are building, because I certainly was comprehensive in that, but the process that you are going to go through. That's what I didn't look at, right? I didn't research venture capital. I didn't research the different types of capital. I didn't research where that money goes. I didn't research my own experience. And burnout is real. Trying to balance, I'm also a mother, that is real, right? All of that is information that I should have prepared myself with before going into it, because I have been through what I thought was every kind of bias I could already encounter in my career, being the only woman in the room almost all of the time, right? In tech and in consulting. This was different. This was a bias unlike anything that I had experienced before, and I was not prepared for it. So that's a number one advice. And the second is along the lines of what I already talked about, but to, as best as you can, not internalize that bias as something you are doing, and have confidence in the face of it. And that's what I think was part of our successful raise to get to that 10 million. And I've raised for Scroobious as well, raising here, coaching our founders. We've got almost 800 founders that have been part of our community now in the 4 years we've had a company, is that confidence and the self-belief and the fundamental understanding that when you're building a company and you're pitching to capital allocators or to investors, if that's your path, you're offering them a chance to profit off of your work. And you're not a charity case, and you don't need every single investor you're pitching. You need the ones that see your potential. And that gives you a different feeling when you walk into those meetings.
So you're choosing your investors as well as them choosing who to invest in, which is really a different orientation. You're right.
Yeah. And the no's don't cut as deep, because, okay, then fine, I'm going to go talk to the next person because I believe in what I'm doing, and I am armed with the knowledge that I'm not failing and I'm not charity. I'm offering, and only a few are going to understand what I'm offering, and that's who I want.
Right. So talk to me a little bit about the trends you're seeing right now among female entrepreneurs in particular. Do you feel that women are making breakthroughs? I mean, we're talking about that number, that 2% or less number, for incredibly talented women with amazing drive and amazing ideas and amazing skills. That number's not really budging. But are you seeing trends in other directions? What are you looking forward to?
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the big trends is where I'm building, right? Is that recognition. When I set out and said, okay, how am I going to be part of this solution? What needs to happen? It was that understanding that, you know, fixing venture is not the answer.
Mm,
Yes, we need more women check writers in the venture space. And I'm part of that work too. That's a long game. That's generational change. Trying to fix it right now is not where founders today need the help, right? We need other sources of capital. We need to look outside of venture, and that's what I'm seeing happening.
mhm.
Again, with particularly with angel investors, also with family offices who are doing more direct investing, with grants and non-dilutive funding. I'm also working on advocacy with our legislators and government agencies to figure out how do we make that easier to access and more equitable as well. But the angels are what people talk about when they say friends and family,
Mhm.
because that's a misnomer for large swaths of the population who have been marginalized from those, generational wealth building facilities. The friends and family is not a thing. The angel investors are a thing, and the best ones are not on lists. Again, there's millions of them everywhere. And expanding the definition of who is an angel investor. And for the angels who are accredited, well, how do I start doing that? We open up, again, billions, 40 billion plus of dollars that are sitting there that could be allocated. And there's a lot of optimism and a lot of collaboration. And the other trend I'm seeing is that collaboration. I'm lucky to be in the room for a lot of these conversations now. I have never felt a stronger shift toward collaborative action because we are fed up, right? Like we are done with this. We have hit our breaking point. And I'm telling you, there is movement with power and money behind it to open these other pathways to capitalize our businesses in a way that I have not seen before. So
That's
that's what gives me hope.
That's really great news. That is really, really great news. And, I depend on the army of pissed off women at this particular time in history, certainly. Oh, I do want to ask you about the role of legislation because you were involved in the passage of this California Senate bill, which talk a little bit about that and why you think that is so important.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I co authored Senate Bill 54 in California, which was signed into law last year, which was an amazing experience in itself. But, for me, I truly believe that public policy and private industry have to work together if we're going to see measurable and demonstrable change. So my work at Scroobious is hand in hand with this policy work. They go together and they work together to create this change. And so with California Senate Bill 54, it was a very small bill team. There were 5 of us. We actually, California honored us in a Senate ceremony a few weeks ago, which was really meaningful for the state to do because it is groundbreaking legislation. It's the first of its kind that regulates the venture capital industry. And our approach was very data driven. I am a data person. That's my background. And if we want to measure change, we have to start with a baseline of data. And a lot of people don't realize those numbers we all quote, the 1.8%, or if you're a Black founder, it's 0.5%. If you're a Black woman, it's 0.35%. All of those numbers come from PitchBook or Crunchbase, which are private companies. It is not mandated that anyone reports this. It's not comprehensive data. Our government should be getting this data, and it should be available and it should be transparent so that founders know where to go to value their own time. So we're going to places that actively do write checks to those that we identify with. And that's what SB 54 will do. Anyone can access this data. It will be publicly available and it will serve as a baseline. So we have that to base decisions on and initiatives and future regulation. We have to establish that to move forward.
Right. I had a boss who used to say, what gets measured gets done.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you're talking about. Right? If we can measure this, then we can hold people to account. And as you say, allocate your own time as a founder, which is so precious, your most precious asset. So one thing we cannot make more of, hours in the
Yeah.
day.
Absolutely. And it is a national imperative. We can add, by Morgan Stanley's estimate, up to $4 trillion to the US economy by investing in entrepreneurs who are diverse.
Yes.
That's an economic imperative, right? When I go back to, again, this is an everybody problem. It's also an everybody opportunity. We are undervalued. We are an asset class. And so that's exactly the spirit of the bill.
Now, are you involved in similar efforts in other states? I mean, obviously California, it takes the lead in this because there's so much venture happening in California, but there's venture in Kansas too. So how is that working out across the US?
Yep, absolutely. Well, so one thing with the California bill is it will be far reaching because it impacts funds who invest in California companies as well. So the funds will be from everywhere. But we have introduced similar bills in other states. I'm very active in 2 bills in Massachusetts. A bill was introduced in New York, and we're working with a handful of other states as well. And yeah, California was first mover. They win. But this is not meant to stay in California. This is meant to be a blueprint and a way for other states to engage in similar legislation.
Great. Great. Well, keep us posted about that. I hope you will. So that we can
Oh, I will.
your efforts. I want to get personal for a moment and just talk about general career advice. I always love getting these kinds of tips from other women. It's like, what is the best advice you have ever received in your career? And if you don't have best advice, what is the worst advice? We all have those too.
Well, I think, there's always wisdom comes with age and life experience, right? So I'm in a position where I'm fortunate to be able to look back on a lot of different experiences I've had and pull that out in different pieces of advice that I've received. But the one that I give when I am talking to particularly students or, younger folks who are thinking about getting on into entrepreneurship is there is no replacement for experience, for experiential learning, right? I'm highly educated. There is, of course, value in education, but it was the hands-on work where I had the most tactical learning and the deepest understanding of what I was doing. And if you're going to start and run a business, there is a lot about it that is not fun. It is administrative. It is financial. It is understanding the minutia and the details of what your business actually does, how it operates. You have to know all of that. And getting that experience by working for another founder at the earliest stages is unparalleled. So that's my best advice. Even no matter what you want to do, even if it's not entrepreneurship, don't discount the early stage of something, because that's when you get to have hands-on experience, maybe before you're qualified or before you'd be able to otherwise. And that's foundational learning that you will carry with you for the rest of your career.
That's such good advice. I mean, I was in media for many years, and that's the kind of thing I used to say to people. It's like, work someplace small where they need you, and you're going to do every job, because that is the quickest way to learn. And then you might want to go to a big company where you can learn from someone who is willing to take you under their wing, and they are not too busy to talk to you. But there's nothing better than having to do 3 jobs at once. You really do learn so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And being privy to those conversations, being a confidant, getting to do, again, that hands-on work, like there's just no comparison, and you're never too young to start, right? Even when I was in undergrad or when I was in business school, I would do my own independent studies and I would get my own internships for class credit so I could actually work on things in addition to what I was learning in my classes. anyone can do that, and you should do that because you don't get those opportunities all too often.
That's great. That's really, really great advice. One of the themes that we have here in SHEconomics, so I have to ask you this question. We talk about activating women's superpowers and women's superpowers just as again, it's an asset class, us and our superpowers. If you had to describe a superpower that you have, what would you say?
So it's a great question, and I like that you force me and your interviewees to self-promote in a way with that question, which we so often don't. But what I've discovered over the past 4 years or so of building Scroobious, and 2 of those years were during a pandemic when, again, I had school-age children. This has been a very interesting journey, and through this advocacy work that I've become involved in. I think my superpower is really activating others to understand that they can be change makers. And it's through walking my talk, right? It's through doing the work and acting and not just talking about it. I'm doing both. And I can't tell you the number of people that reach out to me that say, how do I get involved? And I give them tactical ways and they get involved. I'm not introducing bills all over the country. I'm activating other people to do it, right? I'm doing some too, but it's activating them. And to pass a bill, you need the crowd. You need the masses. You need people to call senators, to sign letters. You cannot do it without public activation. And we've done that. And I did that along with my team. And so that's what I would say. I've really come into that type of superpower through, authentic action and empathy and relatability that other people can see they can do it too.
Great. That's a wonderful answer. So your next activation for all of us, give us an assignment. What do you want us to be doing?
I will be a little self-promotional with Scroobious here. So my own company, Scroobious, it has a funny name. It has meaning behind it, but go to our website. We do everything we can with our own business model so that we can bring what we do to founders free of charge almost all of the time. And if we can't, we have a plan that's $1 a year so you can have access to an unbelievable wealth of resources and community, and without charging the founder. That's not what we rely on. Go to Scroobious.com, apply for a sponsored account. If you are a founder who is working on a pitch, who is fundraising, who's wondering, how do I reach angels, who's hitting all those walls, go join our community or apply for a sponsored account. We also have an angel investor facing side. Again, not our core of our revenue model. That actually is B2B focused separately. Go sign up for the Angel platform and go look at all the founders who have published their material. They work with us to publish compelling pitch decks and videos. They identify as underrepresented. They are actively fundraising. Go find them, connect with them. Even if you're not interested in investing, there's a mechanism. You can give them feedback. You can connect them to your network. Just go start getting involved, especially if you're an investor who says, well, I just don't, I don't know where to find them. Women don't pitch me as much, right? The old trope that makes me gag if it's a pipeline problem. No, you need to proactively go find a different pipe. We're one of them. Go do it. It's such a low risk. It's such a low cost. That would be my call to action. And then the other one on the advocacy side, engage with women's content and people of color's content on LinkedIn. We are not loved by the algorithm, and we are thought leaders, and we are not promoted as such. It makes a difference for our businesses. Go seek out women thought leaders, people of color, Indigenous, LGBTQ+, whatever your affinity is or who you want to support, and actively share and comment on what they put out there.
That is great advice, and I'm going to take it this afternoon. Thank you so much, Allison. I really appreciate you spending so much time with us. I invite everybody to do exactly what Allison said and check back with us. We will be promoting her in the future as well. So you can check on ranavision.com for more of Allison's content. So thank you so much.